All praises to the Most High God, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, forever and ever, so let it be true. Love, honor, and respect to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, to His Holy Son, Yahweh Shai, who died for the 12 tribes of Israel, and double honors to the apostles of TMS, to the 4 major prophets, to the 12 minor prophets, and to the hopeful elect 144,000 brothers, to Akim, the saints who are preaching the word of God on the 4 corners of this earth, risking their lives day in and day out. It's a spiritual warfare against the whore who sits on the beast, and that whore is America, the Federal Reserve, the Pentagon, the branches of government, and that beast is NATO, the European Union, the ancient beast, the Greco-Roman Empire, and the Herodians, the Amalekites, Revelations 2 and 9, Revelations 3 and 9, the Zionist, and Shalom to my brothers, sisters, and children who are watching this video. We're on another lesson. And today, what is today? Wednesday, May 14th. And today we're going to be talking about perfect balance in the holy book of Ecclesiastes. We're going to talk about Joseph in the holy book of Genesis. So we're living in the times of uncertainty, and we're at my home, the house of mourning. Okay, this is where I live. Back years ago, I would film right here at the house of mourning. And now the house that you see in the back, that's where I just put the videos up of my mother's house. My mom used to live right next door to me. Okay, she was there for decades. And I used to live here, she lived right there. And on that porch of that house that I showed in the pictures, I used to sit up on her porch and read the Bible for hours, and we had a lot of memories at that home. But there's a beginning and there's an end, and today we're going to talk about perfect balance. Okay, we had a lot of good times there, and then when my mom passed away, me and my sisters, we ended up selling the home to a home developer. They built this home. So there's a lot of change in this neighborhood. Okay, but that's why I'm filming here today, because when I put these scriptures together, there's always a story. The Holy Book, it's a book of stories, true stories. And it's for you brothers and sisters to learn. And the kids, they're at school, and they're not learning nothing. Okay? That's why it's up to you brothers and sisters at home to teach your family the truth. This holy book. In this book, it never ends. Okay? Beautiful stories are in this holy book. Get into the holy book of Ecclesiastes. But we're in the times of uncertainty, 2025. Okay, and we've been on the rooftops warning people for decades. but no one listened. Okay? But people now are slowly waking up in 2025. I would go back to 2020. That God knocked people off their high horse. Okay? They were on the high horse. You had people on that were proud, filled with pride, and that all changed in 2020. Okay? And we've been in a recession in the year 2020, 2021, 22, 23. 2025, we're going into a depression. Okay? We're in world war. We're in a famine and an economic collapse. We're in the time of a crisis. A lot of activity here. That's why I like to go to the park. But like I said, I'm tying this all together with the two videos that I just put up. There's a time to build, and there's a time to tear down. The God in the Holy Book, the Heavenly Father in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh, and His first creation, His Son, is Yahweh Shai, which means He is the deliverer of His people. Matthew chapter 15, verse 24, Matthew chapter 10, verse 5 and 6. And then you have that natural Gentile, and you have an unnatural Gentile, because the 12 tribes were scattered on the four corners of this earth. We're still going to go back to that series. I think I'm going to be on part 9. I'll probably start that tomorrow. And I'm going to get into the series of the one world order, with that new elected Pope, and how they're going to tie everything with the one world order. That's another series. But today it's going to be a part 1, part 2 on Joseph. And I'm tying it with Ecclesiastes. So we're in the Holy Book of Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Chapter 1. Chapter 3, verse 1. To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. A time for everything. A time to be born and a time to die. He sets the time for birth and a time for death. Right? That's perfect balance. And the Most High Yahweh, He sets that time for every man and woman and children that are on this earth. Okay? When a bird falls from the heavens, Yahweh sanctions it, life and death. Right? It's His decision. A time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted. Okay? The time for planting and the time for pulling up. So I'm reading two translations here from the old King James, and then I have an old holy book that has the Apocrypha in it. I have many Bibles. I have a few hundred Bibles, but I like to read the two translations. So a time for planting and a time for pulling up. Like these trees, there's a time you plant, it grows, Some trees go for 60 years, 80 years, 150 years. Some trees go for hundreds of years. It's born and then it dies. Just like with human beings. That's why I always say, be grateful for what you have, or soon there will be nothing. Be grateful for everything. Be grateful that you have eyes to see, hands to touch, a nose to smell, a tongue to taste, to breathe, to walk, to have feet, legs. It's called having gratitude. Okay? And on this channel, Days of Chaos, Days of Sorrow, it's always going to be raw and to the point. And it's always going to be 100% truth about knowing this truth of knowledge and wisdom, and having respect, being grateful, and having gratitude. Okay? Be grateful that you can breathe, have your health, and some of you brothers and sisters might be battling your health, but everything you need to know is in this holy book. God talks about the herbs, the fruits, the vegetables. You got to eat raw. You got to cook for yourself, and you can be healed with herbs. You got to go walking. You got to get outside. You got to get sun on your body. Okay? But everything is in the holy book. Everything you want to know about life and death is in this holy book. And this is the book of Ecclesiastes is beautiful. Right? That's a book of knowledge and wisdom, secrets and mysteries. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time for killing and a time for healing. A time to break down and a time to build up. Just like when my mother lived next door. All right. There was a time of happiness, joy, memories, being together. There was a time to be born, and there was a time to die. And she left this world. She came down with leukemia. Okay? And she died quickly. She died within 7 days. Quick. Her mother lived into her 90s, like 95, 96. So we thought me and my sisters and children and grandchildren, we thought she was going to be here for into her late 80s or 90s. But it's on God's time. It was quick. She came down. She didn't feel good. I took her to the hospital, and 7 days later she was gone. Okay? I know she's in a better place than here. But like I said, there was a time of memories, time of happiness. Like I said, there's that time of being born, living life with your people that you love. But then tragedy comes, death comes. How can you handle the good and the bad? In the Holy Book, there's perfect balance. So there's that time to break down, a time to build. There was a time the house was built, and there was a time that it was tore down, that it was destroyed, demolished, and now a new build. Okay, and in time, this whole city is going to be destroyed. Right? That's Revelation chapter 18. Okay? That's Revelation chapter 18, verse 10, when America is completely destroyed. Okay, and it's never going to be rebuilt. Babylon the Great. A time to weep and a time to laugh. There was the days of laughter, family, being together, and every day I would visit my mother. We would eat breakfast, and every day we would talk about the Holy Book, talk about the end of the world. Every day. I spent every day with my mother. I was very close with my mother. Her name was Judith, which is biblical. Every single day we would talk about the end of the world. Every day. That was our relationship that we had. We loved talking about the Bible, and we loved talking about the end of the world. Okay? Now her sisters, they didn't talk about the end of the world with their children. They would tell my mother, oh, it's not the end of the world. Especially because they had children. They never wanted to see their children to see pain and suffering. See, this is what happens with people of today. They think everything is prosperity. That's why you have all these false prophets. The Pope, the Cardinals, and these Protestants, they talk prosperity. All right, this is the end of the world. It was the end of the world when the Lord died on the cross. That was when he took his last breath, that was the end of the world. Okay? That was the end of the world. Right? People are going to start feeling the pain. That's in the Holy Book of Ezekiel, Lamentations, mourning, and woe. We're in the days of sorrow. Okay? And these Americans, they're not prepared for what's coming. Okay? But on this channel, I'm preparing you for what's coming. And that's why we're going to talk about perfect balance. A time to laugh and a time to weep. There was times that we laughed. We had joy. We'd read the Holy Book. And then my mom passed away. And it was a time of sorrow. Crying. Weeping. There's a time to cast away stones and a time to dance. See, there's times of dancing and there's a time to cast away stones. See, God right here says, he sets the time for sorrow and the time for joy, the time for mourning and the time for dancing. 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, that was the time of plenty, the time of dancing, football games, Super Bowl, basketball championship, hockey, everything. Those are the good times. Now we're entering the bad times, the times of sorrow, grief, death, depression, bankruptcies, foreclosures, homelessness. People will become homeless and destitute. That's perfect balance. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to gain and a time to lose. The time for mourning and a time for dancing, a time for making love and a time for not making love. A time to keep and a time to throw away. All right? This is the time to throw away. This is the time to get your house in order. Get rid of everything that you have. Okay? Say you have extra clothes, shoes, you have too many things in your garage, in your closets. It's time to clean house. Get your house in order. All right? It's time to throw away a clean house and get prepared to meet your Maker. A time to keep and a time to throw away. He sets the time for finding and a time for losing, a time for saving and a time for throwing away, a time to tear and a time to sow, the time for tearing and a time for mending, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Okay? This is a time for the prophets. We're speaking, and where he says a time to keep silent, this is the time for you brothers and sisters to keep silent and listen and learn this knowledge and this wisdom. Now the rest of the people, they're the walking dead. They go to Barnes and Noble, the libraries, they order books online. Books for fools. All the books out there are lies, deceit. There's only one book that holds the truth, and that's the Holy Book. All the secrets, mysteries, all the great stories are in this Holy Book. And it's a book of perfect balance. A time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate. We're in that time of love. This is the true love, is the ministry, the body of Yahushai. That's the ancient Hebrew name of our Lord. All right? It's not Jesus, it's not Yeshua, it's not Yahweh or Jehovah. All right? We hold his ancient Hebrew name, Yahushai. And this is the true love with the apostles, the prophets, and the 144,000. And Yahushai has for us to learn this knowledge and this wisdom. This is the true love of the body, of this ministry that he's sharing with God's elect. All right? There's a remnant that's going to be saved. The rest, the 2/3, and these nations are going to perish. All right? We're in that time of confusion, a time to love and a time to hate, and we're in that time of hate. All right, with the nations, with the races of people, we're in that time of hate. All right, we're going back in the 1930s and 1940s on steroids. All right. They already have the concentration camps in every city in America and out in the States. They're rebuilding Alcatraz. They got the world prison in El Salvador, and now they're talking about a prison in Libya. So they're already building these world prisons on the four corners of this earth, and they're going to be sending Americans on the four corners. We've been warning the people, like I said, for decades. They're going to take not only illegal immigrants, they're going to be taking Americans. All right? They're going to get you, they're going to make false accusations on people. Remember this. And I was told when I was a little boy, don't believe anything you see on TV and what you read in the newspapers or the magazines. Because the Rothschilds control the narrative, all right? They control the military, they control the state police, the city police, they control the newspapers, they control the narrative. They can make anybody, me and you, as the bad guy. They can demonize you any day, any week, any month. If they want to get you, they're going to get you, and they'll make false accusations against you, and they will demonize you. All right? Remember, America, the Rothschilds, the DuPont, the Oppenheimers, the Rockefellers, who control the Federal Reserve, the branches of government, they demonize everybody. All right? That goes back to in history. They point the finger and they'll demonize. They demonize Iraq. They demonize Syria. They demonize Afghanistan. They demonize Palestine. They demonize Syria. I mean, what's that country that they're bombing to? Is still bombing to Beirut, Lebanon. All right. We point the finger, and they brainwash the masses. It's like what they do with Russia, China. All right. America's the villain, but America always plays the victim. They point the finger, they demonize, and then they attack. Okay? That's their we're dealing with sociopaths and psychopaths. Right? But don't believe anything you read. Right? Especially in these newspapers, they control it. They control, just like they brainwashed the masses in 2020, and they continue. All right. We knew what was going on. They can't put a wool over our eyes. We can see right through these people, through these lobbyists, your politicians, your mayors, your governors, your senators, your Congress, and your president. All right. The Rothschild family, they stay in the dark. They don't want nobody to know who they are. We're the ones that expose it. We're the brothers, the main camps in America. We're the only ones that expose the Rothschild family. All right. They want you to think that Donald Trump's running the show. All right. He's just a face. All right. He's a puppet. He's a billionaire flunky. Right? That's construction going on. If you hear noises, there's working back there. But he's a flunky. He's a coffee boy. Right? All your billionaires are coffee boys. That's their all these corporations run those corporations. But there's a time of war and a time of peace. All right? He sets a time for love and a time for hate and a time for war and a time for peace. We're in that time of hate and we're in that time of war. All right? The only way we're going to see true peace on this earth, all right? The only time we're going to find true peace is when our Lord Yahushua comes back and destroys America, NATO, Israel, and the nations. And that's in Armageddon. All right? The apocalypse. And that's coming. These people don't want to lose their power. So the Lord has to come to destroy them. All right? We're set up here, the prophets, to get all the brothers and sisters and children together as one body and get ready for bad times that are coming. All right, we're living in like I said, this is the time of sorrow. We're getting you brothers and sisters ready to meet your Lord. All right, all these people, they're in confusion. All right, but we're getting all the brothers and sisters ready for what's coming. Okay? Like I said, dark times are approaching. This is just the beginning. So I'm going to tie it in with times of uncertainty. And this is the time that we're living in. Right? A lot of, like I said, a lot of these people they're totally confused. So times of uncertainty can be challenging as the future is unclear. So you have mass layoffs. They've been happening for the last several years. Okay, but 2025 is breaking records. So you have the Rothschilds and you have these corporations. They're bringing down the hammer with the federal government with your major departments, and then you have like 500 small government departments that are all being shut down. And then you have the corporations, and they run it. All right, they run it, and they're gonna. This is the year of the purge. All right. Now you have people out there that have good jobs. They've been making good money. They work for the federal government, or they work for the private sector. They work for these corporations. They've been making a lot of money, and they don't know nothing about suffering, but they're about to suffer. That's why in the holy book of Ecclesiastes, there's a time to build and there's a time to destroy. There's a time you open your business, and there's a time you close your business. There's a time that you get hired at a corporation, and there's a time you get the pink slip. You're fired. You're laid off. Right? I faced it in my past. I've been laid off. I opened a business and closed my business. As a matter of fact, I closed my business for this truth. All right, back in 2009, I shut it down. I had a restaurant in downtown Denver. I closed it for this. I left everything for this truth. Now, all you brothers and sisters, you're going to have to, there's things in life that you'll have to sacrifice. Right? You know, not going out. When you get into this truth, family and friends are going to turn their back against you. We've been living it for decades, where you're like all alone. Right? So, you know, I don't go out on the weekends. I don't go to clubs. I don't go to concerts. I don't go to football games. You know, my peace is making these videos, reading the Bible, walking around the park, sitting next to a tree. That's my peace. You know, like I like to go to the zoo. I like to go to the gardens. Anywhere in the mountains where I can find my peace. Right? But once you get into this truth, you're gonna walk alone, because people are gonna turn against you. Right? Your best friends, like I said, family members, and a lot of you brothers and sisters, you've been going through this. But a lot of the new people that are watching, some people are on the sidelines, some people are on the bleachers. They're trying to, you know, they're just starting to learn this. You know, so that's why I go back and forth. When I teach, I'll go back and forth. Some of you brothers and sisters seen videos. I've made videos about perfect balance, but this is for new brothers and sisters. But that times of uncertainty can be challenging, as the future is unclear. Right? Now, people that are losing their jobs, and these people that have never knew pain, never been laid off, never been fired, they're facing this challenge that their future is unclear. And it's going to happen to everybody under the sun. All right, that's perfect balance. All right, don't listen to those churches on the left-hand side. Joel Osteen, T.D. Jakes, Trinity Broadcasting Network. They're liars. They're greedy dogs. Those are the false prophets. They talk about days of plenty and prosperity, that everything's going to be great forever. That's a lie. This proves it. The holy book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3. There's going to be days that you feel great, you feel strong. Then there's days that you're going to come down with a stomach ache, a headache, off balance. That's perfect balance. You're going to have a day you can eat, drink, and you're going to have a day that you have a toothache. Okay. I used to have 20/20 vision, and now I'm losing my vision. That's perfect balance. I have understanding of this holy book. Right? I used to run when I was a teenager in my 20s. I used to run 3-5 miles a day. Always in shape. And then one time I got ambushed shot in my leg and my stomach, and I had to learn how to walk again. I didn't know if I should move my left foot or my right. I was on crutches. I had to learn how to walk again. And I never blamed God. Never blamed God. Always praised Him. Even when I was a little kid, when I would get hurt, I would thank God. Don't blame nobody. It's a lesson. You're being tested, and you have to learn this lesson. God, we're all on a journey. You're going to face good times, and you're going to face bad times. That's why we're preparing you for what's coming. Mentally, physically, and spiritually, you have to be strong. And you're going to be stronger by reading this holy book. You're going to be stronger. And you're going to have understanding. And God's going to give you knowledge, and He's going to give you wisdom and peace. Even when you're being persecuted, when you're suffering. I've been through it, and I find peace and comfort with the Word of God, eating the Word of God. You eat this Word. This is the real food. You want to be healed? You eat the Word. If spirits are the physical world's attacking you, or spiritually, you have demons on the left-hand side messing with your mind, messing with your thoughts, you have to stick and read the holy book. Right? Play the harp that removes demons. We're all being attacked. The stronger you get with the Lord, Yahweh Shai, the more you're going to be attacked. Right? We're on the battlefield. So, but everybody's going to face this. All right? And we're in that time. The next 3 years is going to be hell on earth for people. People that have been living good, been living in a 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom home. Within the next 3, 6, 9 months, they might be living in the streets. Right? Millions of people will become homeless. So the future is unclear, which can lead to feelings of anxiety and worry. It can be triggered by events beyond our control. See? Beyond our control. People out there making $150,000 a year, $250,000 a year. There's men and women that are making $500,000, $1 million. But that all changes when you're fired, when you're let go. And a lot of people, they never prepared. They thought it was going to be the gravy train forever. They thought they were so successful and so smart that this was going to last for 30, 50 years. Nothing lasts forever. And most people don't have knowledge and wisdom of this holy book. They thought it was going to last forever. They got themselves in a big home, a big mortgage, and now they lost their job, and they still owe 10, maybe 12, 14 years on their mortgage. They're in big trouble. Because they're not going to, we're in the time that you're not going to find it. The money that you make, your yearly salary is going down. All right? We're in that time of hyperinflation. So somebody that was making $150,000 a year, they were let go, laid off. They're going to try to go to the private sector to find that job. They're not going to find it. They might get lucky. They might get lucky and find a job for $80,000. It might be $60,000. Right? Some people can't even. I'm watching videos where it shows people trying to find a job for 3, 6, 9 months and can't find a job, and throw those your college degrees in the trash. Most of the people that I watch, men and women with their degrees, They can't find nothing. They can't even find jobs at Walmart. Jobs, you don't need a degree. They're overqualified. People are in big trouble. And there's no time for retirement. People that are watching that are 65, 67, 73, you're never going to retire. Not with inflation, hyperinflation. People are coming out of retirement, going back, or trying to go back into the job market. And no one's going to hire people that are in their 70s or 80s or 90s. All right? And then you gotta, when you're at that age, you're facing health problems. All right? This is what I'm talking about. We're in the time of sorrow, the time of lamentations, mourning, and woe. But we're going to get you prepared. We're going to get you ready. All right? With this truth. And you have to have faith and hope that God will have mercy upon your soul and upon your family. That's why you need to be in prayer. You need to pray over your children. You need to remove yourself from wickedness. Don't be listening to hard rock music, rap music, all this weird demonic music that you hear on the radio. You got to remove yourself from parties and going out with creeps. That's what you see at these concerts, at these clubs, and these bars are a bunch of perverts and creeps, pedophiles, lowlifes, backstabbers. They have no truth in them. They're just evil and wicked. All right, like I said, we're going to get deep into the Holy Book. But you want to stay on God's good side. You want to stay on the right-hand side. All right? So it's out of your control, such as changes in work and your health concerns. It's out of your control when a natural disaster. This is a part of life. Recognizing and accepting uncertainty is the first step in coping with it. Learn and to embrace uncertainty. That's perfect balance. View uncertainty as an opportunity for growth and learning the truth in this holy book. Learn this truth. Give your life to the Lord Yahushai, and He will give you peace. He will give you true peace. And if you love God with all your heart, He will protect you, and He will be your fortress. Right? But we're living in that time that people are going to be displaced out of their homes with these disasters that are happening. Earthquakes, hurricanes, floods. I just showed a couple hours ago, I believe it was in Maryland, the streets were flooded. There's a lot of tornadoes. You had the hurricanes last summer, or last fall. You had the fires in California, in Pacific Palisades. And right there, I believe on the San Gabriel Mountains, I forgot what that city is called over there. Is it Altadena? Where people had a home one day, and the next day it was gone with these fires. All right? That's a natural disaster. That's out of your control. But you have to embrace good and bad, life and death, peace and war. All right? So you're going to see people homeless. People will be destitute. And going into the news, we're going to tie this all together with these mass layoffs. This is just a few. There's so many I can't even keep up with it. Okay? So mass layoffs hit Microsoft. Excuse me. That right now, about 6,000 people are receiving layoff notices. They said this is just the beginning with Microsoft. All right. They've been lying to you on CNBC that everything is great. The job market is great. It's not great. I watched some videos with people who deliver or work with that Uber and all these food, where they deliver the food, and they said it's slowed down big time. You know, and they're trying to make extra money. These are side hustles, and they're feeling it. All right, a lot of layoffs are coming. It's going to be like a dominoes effect, and this is all by design. All right, because they're pushing for that devil's chip. All right, it's gonna be a cashless society. All right, and they need to destroy America, because America is the strongest economy on the earth. All right, that's Revelation chapter 18. Babylon the Great. All right, America, the stock market. All right, we'll get in do a series on that, about the stock market, how we trade with the whole world. We made the world rich. All right, because Americans consume, because you're brainwashed with television, radio, buy. Every month there's some holiday, and it's showing, go buy a new couch, chairs, a dining table, kitchen cabinets. They push to consume, and Americans, you go crazy with your credit cards. That's why you're in debt. It's all mind control, brainwashing for the people just to spend. All right, to be in debt. That's why no one in America knows nothing about money. Only the super rich. The 99.9% of Americans have no understanding of money. And you went to school, you didn't learn that. The teachers don't know nothing about money. That's why they're in debt. Here in the city of Denver, they can't even live in Denver. It's too expensive. They have to live 10, 20, 30 miles away, because they can't afford to live in the city of Denver. Right? Colorado is a very expensive place to live. Just like New York City, Miami, or cities that are just you have to be making a lot of money to live in these cities, but they need their slaves, and but it was all by design. When you went to school, it was just to get you prepared to be a servant, a slave to the corporations, all right, and to keep you in debt. But you consume too much. See, this is not bothering me. I'm not out there buying all kinds of stuff. All right, but most of these Americans, they buy every year. They're buying a new sofa. They're redecorating their homes. They're always consuming everything, but it's going to come to a stop. And it's happening right now. Things are slowing down. A lot of these truckers, there's videos that these truckers, there's no loads. They're out there in California. The semis are waiting for these ships to come in, and there's nothing. Right? So there's mass layoffs. And I believe it was in Texas. They already have the first electric semis, robots, artificial intelligence that are they don't need no man to drive these semis. All right, they're electric, just like you have these electric cars that can drive by themselves. They have these taxi cabs, no humans. All right, artificial intelligence, man. This is all by design. population control. It's to destroy the population, right? They have a sinister plan to wipe out billions of people on the four corners of this earth. This is serious, what I'm saying here. All right? They have these drones, they have these robots, and this is the time of sacrifice and purging the population. Right? And you're on the hit list. They have that bullseye on you and your family. Right? And like I said, people are going to find out about this perfect balance. Times of plenty and the times of hunger. We're in the times of hunger. All right? We're in the times of mass layoffs, bankruptcies, mass suicide, all right? Anarchy, race wars, civil war. We're in that fourth turning. This is the last turning of the ages, because we're at the end of this age. So you have 6,000 laid off at Microsoft, and why it matters, more than 100 large companies across various industries are laying off employees in 2025. These 100 large corporate companies, they're all cleaning house. Like I said, the Rothschilds are bringing down that hammer. Right? And these CEOs and the people that run these corporations, they're not going to be hurt. You have these people that are protesting against Tesla, Elon Musk. He's not going to be hurt. You don't have to buy his cars. He gets unlimited money from the Federal Reserve. All these billionaires get unlimited money because they're part of that one body on the left-hand side, the illuminated ones, the Illuminati. They're all together, all right? They're on the left-hand side. So your billionaires and your super rich, the trillionaires, they're not going to be affected. Now you'll have a lot of millionaires. They're a bunch of flunkies. They're going to be out there destitute. They're going to lose everything, right? Because rich and poor will be the same. The only ones that won't be hurt or affected until the end are your. We're not talking about the low billionaires. We're talking about there's men out there that are worth like 500 billion, and you have your trillionaires. They're not going to be affected. They already got their underground bunkers. They know what's coming. And in the Holy Book, they're going to be our first slaves. So you're super rich. They're not going to be touched. They got those underground bunkers like NORAD, Denver World Airport, and there's many on the four corners of this earth where the super rich, where these Amalekites and Edomites, they're going into those deep bunkers. But they'll be our first slaves. But the rest of the people, rich and poor, will be the same. That's in the Holy Book of Revelation. But over 100 corporate companies are purging their employees. Nissan cuts 20,000. They're gone. Panasonic, 10,000. Gone. Rite Aid fired 1,100 corporate. Retail mass layoffs. It's a 296% increase in total mass layoffs in the retail. The retail's done. All these malls are going to be closed. All right? They're done. UPS fires 20,000. This is just the beginning. UPS plans to close 73 facilities. 73 buildings are closing by the beginning of June. Student loan defaults. They're coming after them. And they're gonna garnish your checks, and they're gonna go into your bank accounts and take your money. Yes, they can go into your bank and take your fiat money. All right? Section 8 is over. I put that video up about a week ago. They're cut. The whole federal government is being cut. You're going to have millions of people homeless. And they don't care about your children. They don't care if you're handicapped. They don't care if you're 90 years old. They're cutting Medicare and Medicaid. And mortgages are doubling. I wanted to go into the Holy Book of Genesis, but we're going to get into that tomorrow with the story of Joseph, because that all ties in. Okay? It all ties in what we're talking about. Perfect balance. A time to build, a time to destroy. A time of peace, a time of war. And with Joseph, he was with his family one day, and then he was sold into slavery. Right? And he was taken to a country, into a people, and a language he did not know. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. I hope all you brothers and sisters were edified with this lesson. And keep the faith, keep on fighting the good fight. All praises to the Most High God forever and forever. So let it be true. Most High willing, I'll be here tomorrow. Tawada. Thank you for watching.